Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, hello, hi, how are you doing? I hope you are doing so well today. Today, I'm doing a not normal reaction video. If you know, I usually react to stuff. I sit down here, put on a video, watch it for the first time with you all. And today I went ahead and watched Amberlynn's latest video and took some notes on it ahead of time. I usually reserve that for things that are just like super long. Like sometimes if she is in her live stream bag and she's live streaming for hours on end, I will just watch that all on my own time and pull out the interesting things so we don't have to sit here through the whole thing together. But the other time that I reserve it for is if she is covering what I would consider to be a more serious topic, just so I can really make sure that I'm being thoughtful about the things that I say. Not that I'm not thoughtful when I'm reacting, but when I'm reacting to videos, my first inclination is to just like hee hee ha ha about everything. And be silly. And so when she posts some more serious stuff, I like to take some time to sit with it and make sure that I'm really being thoughtful about what I want to say, especially when it comes to her titling something. Well, so the title of her video is called Major Health Scare Bar Why I Have Been Seeing Doctors Lately. And she's got, you know, the classic Amberlynn thumbnail where she's like, her eyes aren't open, she's looking down. And so I didn't really know what I was getting into. I did ask people on Twitch in general if there was other stuff besides just like the health update, or if it was a video just dedicated to the health update, and it is. I was just like, it's fine. I'll just watch it before. I'll give you my quick thoughts about it. And this might be a little bit of a quicker video than what you would get if I had sat down and reacted to it. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions? I mean, I guess you can't tell me right now in real time. We just gotta get to. So yeah, I will be looking over here to the side at the notes that I took and the thoughts that I had. I also just in general, I'm not good at doing scripted anything. I tend to sound really dumb when I do scripted stuff, or I stumble over my words a lot more and things like that. So that is why I have an outline, just to help me remember what I wanted to say and also stay on track. So in general, the video starts off and she gives a general like rundown and overview of her experience with uterine cancer in the past and how she found out that she had it, and that had to deal with her bleeding, and every time she would go get it checked by a doctor, the doctor would say you have a UTI. They'd give her antibiotics and send her on her way, and that's why she has a lot of, I think what she's trying to say, she has a lot of trauma related to bleeding and thinking she might have a UTI, and that all getting addressed in places like the ER, or in this case immediate care and stuff like that. I also guess this would be a good time to say that like there are some brief conversations about cancer. I probably should have said that before I said the last thing, but in general, one of the things that Amberlynn is concerned about is cancer. And the reason I give like a little bit of a content warning is that when Amberlynn found out she had cancer, I actually took a break from covering Amberlynn because at the same time, and I didn't say that it was my mom at the time because my mom was like not even telling some people in our personal life at the time that this was happening, but my mom had found out that she had precancerous cells in her uterus and she was going to have to get a full hysterectomy to just be preventative and take care of that and make sure that it didn't turn into cancer. And so at the time, I was mentally, emotionally not in a place to even have the conversations that Amberlynn was having, on top of like other stuff going on in my life at the time as well. That was like, I think 2020, if I remember correctly. I say all of that to say that, you know, we're gonna keep talking about some things related to cancer, uterine cancer specifically, and or maybe other types of cancer. I'm not exactly sure what kind of cancer Amberlynn might be worried that she has, but either way, if that's something that is not super comfy for you to talk about, or you're not in a place right now that you want to talk about that or listen to stuff about that, it's totally okay for you to take a break and go watch something else. Come back to this video later. Maybe never come back to it. Take care of yourself first and foremost. So yeah, she had a full hysterectomy in response to her uterine cancer that she had. And so now when there is blood in her pee or anything like that, she's obviously very worried, because otherwise the only reason that there would be blood in that area is if you had your uterus and you were still having the basic functions of what your uterus does. So she says that she didn't have a doctor. She hadn't had a doctor. She had not found one since moving to Oklahoma, which is important. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it later. And that anywhere she tried to get into, it was going to take months to be seen by somebody for this issue. Potentially, I think she said one doctor didn't have any time for like a year. And I think unfortunately that is the state of the healthcare system. If you follow me on Twitch, I've had similar frustrations of like trying to get in to see doctors and specialists and things like that. So I think that is just generally the way it is in some places right now. And she made the correct choice to go to an immediate care center to have this checked out. They did blood work, and there was no evidence of a UTI, which is what she really thought she had. The immediate care was able to provide her with the number of a doctor that could see her maybe a little bit sooner to get things checked out, and that doctor did additional lab work just to be safe and make sure it wasn't a UTI, and it sounds like it was not a UTI with them either, which is why they've now ordered a CT scan for her to, I think she said to see if it could be cancer or also maybe kidney stones. It sounds like those are the two options, and obviously the one that is most prevalent in Amberlynn's mind is cancer because of the previous history she has with cancer and her experience with it, and that's the one that she seems to be focused on, although it also sounds like, based on what she said, that it's probably a good chance that it is kidney stones. And in addition to all of that, she mentions that she is being put on antibiotics, which she, I think, mentioned in a previous video too, but she's on antibiotics just to be safe in case there was some kind of infection that didn't show up in the blood work they did. So that's basically the too long didn't watch part of what's going on with her health. It was actually a very small part of the 9.5 minute long video. Most of the video focuses on her talking about her frustrations with the ways that she's perceived as a super morbidly obese person. So we'll get into those parts, and honestly, I probably could have reacted to it for the first time with you all, like those portions I probably could have done with all of you, but since I'd already started watching and I wasn't sure if she's going to continue bringing up like the health concerns, I didn't want to do all that. The first thing though that I want to say before we get into those parts is discussing this concept of boundaries, because in the video that I just reacted to yesterday, she talked about this like struggle she's having with wanting to be vulnerable on her channel and also wanting to respect her own boundaries of not sharing things about her health and doing this, that, the other to protect her own peace and mental health, because she doesn't like when people speculate. A lot of people are rude to her, this, that, the other. I think all reasonable things to have a boundary like that in place for. And I guess what I will say, based on the video I made yesterday, if anything, I guess she decided to shit and get off the pot. like she decided she was just gonna talk about it and she got off the pot. So, you know, at least she's not sitting out here vaguely teasing us anymore with what this health news is or could be. I do question why she violated her own boundaries, especially because it seemed like some aspect of her boundary was, I want to wait until I have all the information so that I can share it with you so that there won't be speculation. And in this situation, she's sharing with us and she clearly doesn't have all the information, because she says that she's literally recording this video before she gets ready to go get this CT scan that was ordered by her doctor. So I don't know what the boundary is, if the boundary still exists, why she felt the need to film and post this video. before she even had the CT scan, although I think she is a little bit ahead in her content, so it is possible by now that she knows, like, what the results of the CT scan were or whatever, and I'm guessing we'll find out in a video or two. But, you know, like, it doesn't make any sense that to me if she wanted people to not speculate or she wanted to avoid people speculating that she would come on here and post all of this without having a specific answer from her doctor. Like, that seems kind of silly to me. But what I will say is that I don't really want to speculate on what's wrong with her. I think most importantly because I'm not a healthcare professional in any kind of way, doctor, nurse, whoever, whatever. And also, even if I was, and I think this is just like something to consider, is that there are lots of people that come into my comments, I'm sure go into her comments as well, that say like, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I've had this experience based on what I know from her videos, blah, 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 blah. And I get where those people are coming from, and they probably are making very good, educated responses to the things that she's saying. But I also just feel like even people who are doctors and nurses don't have probably all the information they need about Amberlynn's health to make an assessment, you know? Like, they don't know her entire medical history, they aren't seeing the symptoms in person, things like that, not seeing the lab work, whoever, whatever. I think even when you see people in the comments saying like, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, it's also important to be skeptical, to take those things with a grain of salt. Like, the only person who's really, truly gonna know about Amberlynn's health is herself, and like the medical professionals that are treating her in person are able to see her symptoms, her blood work, her labs, her medical history, this, that, the other. I also am gonna try to avoid speculating about her health just because speculation is why she's hesitant to share to begin with. And while I'm certainly not going to tell others not to speculate, like, I'm just not going to contribute to the speculation myself. I also just in general don't usually speculate on her health. I try to keep it to whatever she tells us in the videos because, again, all of the reasons above. So that's her health update. That really was the long and short of it. And then she spent nearly, I would say, the other 2/3 of the video talking about her weight, her size, how people blame her for her health problems because of her size, but also she takes accountability for her health problems because of her size, but it's also unfair that people blame her weight on her health issues on her weight. Oh my god, struggling to talk. I mean, it's truly weird how back and forth she goes. I'll just include like some of the clips to demonstrate just the really like back and forth and going all over the place when it comes to whether or not she thinks her weight has a factor in what is wrong with her, and if it's okay for people to blame her weight for her health problems.
There are things that your body does that you are not in control over. And I know a lot of people are like, this happened to you because of your weight. This is your weight's fault. This is your weight's fault. Not everything is because of my size and because of my weight. I get so much like, this is your fault. This is your fault. Sometimes it's just literally not my fault. I have fully taken the responsibility of me getting uterine cancer to begin with. Like, that is completely my fault. And I would have never gotten it if it wasn't for my size. But I can't blame everything on my size because not everything is my size's fault. Looking at bigger people and dismissing them constantly for whatever reason, just because of their weight, it isn't fair. And it is in a way dehumanizing. But I'm not ignorant. I'm not unaware of the fact that like, being larger does cause a lot of health problems. It truly does. That is why I've never been health at every size. I don't believe that you can be this size and be healthy, but I do believe that bigger people, such as myself, we do experience illnesses or sicknesses that isn't directly caused by our weight. So hopefully that makes sense.
So I do want to say, I think I understand where she's trying to come from. What she's trying to say, I think, is that like, yes, my weight is a factor in my health, but it's frustrating that that is potentially the only thing that people see as a factor in what's wrong with me health-wise, and that sometimes there are things happening to us that are not related to our weight, and it's really frustrating that the only response that sometimes people who are plus size, overweight, obese, etc. get when they go seek medical attention is that you need to lose weight. At least I think that's what she's trying to say. She's really bad at articulating herself. I don't think that's news to anybody. And I want to say that in general, I agree with that sentiment. I think that I have talked to a lot of women in my personal life. I've seen a lot of women over time in my comment sections who have all shared their own personal concerns and struggles that they've had in going to see doctors and being blamed, or their weight being blamed for various health issues, some of which like very clearly don't have anything to do with their weight. And I guess even as like a personal anecdote of oversharing with you all, although it's not super oversharing or necessarily something brand new because I've talked about it with my Twitch audience, but I have been seeing a cardiologist for some heart issues related to like family history, but also like I just have high cholesterol. I have some plaque buildup in one of my arteries. And it's wild because the doctor fully did like blood work to test to see if I had like the genetic markers to have high cholesterol and heart health issues, and they found genetic markers that are like, yeah, there are things beyond your control that contribute to you having higher cholesterol. That's why we're gonna put you on cholesterol medicine now. And despite him doing all of that, he also made like all kinds of assumptions about my diet without asking me about my diet. In particular, you've heard this story if you've been on Twitch, but in particular, at one point I was like, could you actually tell me more about what I should be doing with my diet, because you know you've kind of alluded to me maybe needing to do something, but like I would love to have more information, or if you could like direct me to a nutritionist, a dietitian, whoever, whatever. And he told me that I needed to eat smaller portions. Now prior to that, the questions he asked me about my diet were really random, okay? If you ever see people in my comments asking me if I had more than 4 eggs in a week, it's because he asked me how many eggs I ate in a week, and I said, I don't know, it depends. I don't even eat eggs every week, but when I do, sometimes I eat 2 to 3, and he told me I should only eat 4 eggs a week. He also asked me about how often I eat fast food, and he asked me if I drink soda, and I said, no, I drink diet soda. And so it's like, he asked me very specific questions about my diet that felt really irrelevant to like the larger scope of my diet as a whole. And when I asked for more information, he told me that I needed to eat smaller portions, despite the fact that I never told him how big of portions I ate. Maybe I do need to eat smaller portions, just for the record. And when I asked him to clarify that, like why he thought I needed to eat smaller portions, he said, well, you're 6'2", and how much did I weigh at the time? I think I was like 238 at the time, 248. I don't know. I was somewhere in there. I don't weigh myself every day, but that is around, like, I'm somewhere in the like low 240s today, I think. And anyways, besides the point, he's like, you're 240 something pounds and you're 6'2", you're a big fella. And I'm like, well, this man just made a whole assumption about my portion size for my meals based on what he perceived me to look like, based on me being a big person. And I don't know, like I said, like maybe my portion size is wrong, but I think it's a stunning example of how he just made so many assumptions about me because of my weight, because of my height. So yeah, I definitely think that there are healthcare providers who do stuff like that. Like, I can say that from my own experience. I can say that from like the testimony of people in my comments section. And so I'm sure Amberlynn has also experienced that to some extent as well. But I gotta say, while I do, and I hope you're still listening, okay? While I do understand where she's coming from and why that can be frustrating, because I've experienced it myself, I have to say that if you followed her for a long time on her channel, you would understand why this is so frustrating, that she like is almost like getting frustrated at people for blaming her for her health problems. I think most importantly because she herself in this video and in recent videos related to Ozempic has talked about how her weight plays a factor in her health. But also, she even said herself back in the day when she got diagnosed with cancer to begin with that it was a wake-up call for her, that she needed to make changes to her health. And as such, I think it's more than reasonable that people are like, how did you get here? How have you not made any significant changes to your lifestyle, your health, etc., since you got diagnosed with cancer nearly 4 years ago. Like, how are we having this conversation again? What changes did you make? Why aren't you making more changes? And I gotta say, that goes outside of even just like her diet and her weight and anything related to like her physical exercise and things like that. Like, forget her size, forget all of that. At a minimum, I would imagine if you were once upon a time diagnosed with cancer to the extent that you had a full hysterectomy to take it out, that you would then prioritize regular checkups with some kind of doctor. And yet we saw her not prioritize that at all in a post-cancer world. She's literally moved to Oklahoma and she struggled to find a doctor to see her for this concern that she thought was a UTI, because when she moved here, she didn't prioritize finding a doctor to begin with. And so, yeah, I do think it's wild that, like, she's in this place where she's not trying to do everything she can to better her health and prevent herself from, like, repeating her past mistakes. And I guess you could be like, well, why do you care? And I think to some extent that's a fair point. Like, Amberlynn is gonna Amberlynn, you know? All of this ultimately negatively impacts her and the people in her personal life who care about her. It doesn't necessarily impact me, but also, like, I don't know, I think I've reiterated this a few times in a few recent videos, but, like, I genuinely do hope the best for her. I genuinely don't want anything bad to happen to her. And so I think that's why it's frustrating for a lot of people to watch and see her just, like, not prioritize these things, not do the things that she needs to do as somebody who had cancer once upon a time to make sure that she is taking care of herself, taking care of her body. I mean, at the bare minimum, like, actively, regularly going to the doctor. So no, I don't necessarily think it's inherently all her fault. I think there's lots of people with health issues that come up out of nowhere despite all of their best efforts to be the healthiest that they can be. I think things do come up. But I gotta say, I also think it's reasonable for people to wonder why she hasn't done more to take care of herself after facing cancer. Amongst many other health issues too, mind you, like, lest we forget the gallbladder sludge, the dangling ankle, the dangling lung, this, that, the other. Like, she's certainly faced a lot of stuff and done next to nothing from at least what we can see and perceive as her audience. And the last part of her video really focuses on her talking about her frustrations in general about being perceived as a super morbidly obese and only as a super morbidly obese person on the internet, which is a conversation we've had before on this channel. It's not something new. Actually, almost none of this conversation is new, which I think a lot of you probably easily spotted and have pointed out by now that we've had all of these conversations before, which is also probably why it's infuriating that she's in this situation again, and it's wild that she hasn't done more to change the situation since it happened the last time. So anyways, in regards to being frustrated that people only see her as a super morbidly obese person, she lists a bunch of common tasks that in the past she actually has said that she couldn't do because of her weight. And she's getting ready, after she lists them all off, she's getting ready to say that she's never given any indication that she couldn't do those things, and then realizes she's about to tell a lie.
It goes on to, like, simple things like Amberlynn doesn't shower because of her size, or Amberlynn doesn't walk her dog because of her size, or Amberlynn doesn't clean her house because of her size. Like, I have never given any indication. Yes, 4 years ago, for sure. 2019. Wait, that's literally 5 years now. 2019, 5 years ago, yes. Like, those things were close to virtually impossible for me at the time.
Now, I think it's fair to be like, yeah, it's been 5 years. A lot has probably changed in 5 years. But I think a lot of people still question if she can do those things because, one, she told us once upon a time that she couldn't do them because of her weight, and her weight has, for the most part, mostly stayed the same. Two, we don't see her doing any of these things in most of her videos. In the large majority of her videos, we see her just sitting around, eating food, buying things. Like, that's the bulk of her videos. We're not seeing her walk Twinkie. We're not seeing her clean her house that often. We're not, well, thank God, we're not seeing her shower. And she's also told us in the past that she purposely trolls. So it's really hard to believe anything, honestly, truly. Like, for the most part, I think most people take everything she says with a grain of salt. And to be honest, I don't know what Amberlynn has to do at this point to convince people that she does do these things. She did actually show us herself showering once. She really did. And she has occasionally, like maybe twice in recent history, shown us her walking Twinkie, like on the long, like, mile walk. She's shown, like, shorter trips outside. But she's gone on, like, what, 2-mile-long walks where she showed herself walking Twinkie? But these things are rare occurrences. These things are not happening frequently in her videos, so I guess maybe starting to show them more frequently. I mean, people might get tired of it, but also I think people are reasonably tired of the content she's been giving. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think she has to do anything. I'm not telling her what she has to do. Like, I don't think she has to prove anything to anybody, but she seems concerned about proving it to people. So I guess if that's what she wants to do, then just start showing you doing those things more often. It's not like your vlogs are super long. You could add in a minute of you cleaning your house. You could add in a minute of B-roll of you walking Twinkie. I think it's also a little bit about how, like, in this video even, she says, well, I talk about showering. I talk about cleaning. And that's, like, also part of the problem. Like, you talk about it. You talk about it. And sometimes it's like you talk about it so much because you just want to make sure that we believe that. But I think that's another part of the issue as well, with people not believing that she can do those things. She also talks about how she's upset that everything on her channel is always about her size, as though most of her own videos aren't about weight loss and what she eats.
It could literally be anything, no matter what I talk about on this channel. Somehow the reaction I receive is always weight-based. It's always about my size. I do talk about my weight a lot on this channel. I'm about to start a new Ozempic journey. That's something that I'm always going to talk about, but that doesn't mean that every single thing that I do in my life is directly a cause of my size. I want to be a person with so many things about them, and one of them just being that I'm super morbidly obese. But instead, I feel like the internet makes me just a super morbidly obese person with nothing else about her. I'm only ever seen for my size.
Like, just for context, okay, here are some of the words from titles of videos she's made recently, okay? My Ozempic appointment, starting a new medicine, doctor's appointment, dinner with Mama Lynn, cook dinner with me, what I ate today off track, starting a new weight loss series, okay? And that was all from, I think, like maybe the past 6 or 7 videos. And then if you really specifically look at the past 6 videos, okay, because those are titles. If you look at just the thumbnails of her videos, of the last 6 videos she's posted, 3 of them feature images of her eating something. And one of the 3 that's not an image where she's eating something is her standing in front of an open fridge. Which, mind you, if you watch the video, the context for the fridge is that she's pulling the Ozempic out of the fridge to show her audience. But, like, the thumbnail is literally intentionally her standing in front of an open fridge, okay? Please miss me with this idea that, like, she hasn't, like, built her channel around her size, her weight, and what she eats. I think it's so disingenuous for her to sit here and act like she hasn't built her channel around this. I certainly understand the desire to be more than just any one part of your identity. I get it. That makes so much sense to me that she'd want to be known for more as that. But, like, girl, let's be so fucking serious with each other. Like, I get it. Like, even as a super morbidly obese person, regardless you have to eat, regardless you have to exist. But like you purposely highlight those things for your channel. And the majority of your content on your channel is focused around that. You know why I don't get mad when people call me an Amberlynn Reed reaction channel? It's because a large majority of my content up to this point has been about her. Do I do other stuff? Yes. Would I love for other people to recognize the other content that I also make and the other things that I cover on this channel? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I understand why people perceive me the way I do. I understand that if I want people to perceive me as something else, like I have to also put out other content and other things for people to see. So when you're sitting here acting surprised or acting, I guess she's not acting surprised. I don't think she's surprised by it anymore, but acting frustrated that that's how people perceive you. And then that's like the basis of your content. I don't know what to tell you. And again, I agree that she's probably more than just a super morbidly obese person. But like, let's be really fucking honest with each other. What else has she shown? Her going to bingo, buying journals and other useless junk from stores and online shopping. Like, yeah, I would love to explore new stuff outside of all of that. It's why I've honestly enjoyed Mama Lynn being a even small side character in this Oklahoma arc. Like, for better or worse, I do feel like it's opened up to learning some new things about Amberlynn. I think it could potentially be interesting to know more about how she's, like, rekindled this relationship with her mom and how her mom has made amends with her for the ways that she treated Amberlynn as a child. So I think that there is the capacity to learn more about Amberlynn, to learn more about who she is outside of just, you know, somebody who's super morbidly obese and is constantly on diets and sharing what she eats in videos. But like, it would be a complete, like, just Delulu Lynn moment to sit here and act like the majority of her content isn't based around her being super morbidly obese. So anytime that she brings this up, it's always so confusing to me why she's acting so frustrated, as though she's not in a place where she could make some level of changes to the content that she puts out there. I mean, she's had that thought before. She's had the thought of, like, I guess even to some extent where she, like, decided she wasn't gonna do full-on mukbang. She does, like, mukbang adjacent kind of content a lot, but, like, she said there's never gonna be a video where the whole video now is just me sitting down and eating a meal on camera for you all, right? So, like, she gets it to some extent, for real, but, like, she doesn't really fully get it. She doesn't get the full context. So that's my thoughts about that. I think that's the end of my notes. I'm gonna have such a mess of an editing job to do because I was stumbling over my words all over the place while I was talking about this. But ultimately, I do just want to say, like, I hope she's healthy. I hope she gets the care she needs, and I hope everything ends up being okay. It is very curious to me why she crossed the boundaries that she set for herself now when she doesn't have all the information. It's curious to me that she wants this to not be her full identity, this being like her being super morbidly obese. And it's curious to me, like, how her brain thinks about, like, what is and isn't her fault and what is or is okay or isn't okay for people to blame on her. It was just a interesting conversation, but also not an interesting conversation that we haven't had before. You know, you feel me? Anyways, let me shut the fuck up. Let me sign off. Thanks so much for hanging around, for listening, for watching. I appreciate you all being here today and joining me for this conversation. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!